And we are live. Welcome to Event Horizon on the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, KB Visions, and my guest tonight, Jolene Starr. I am so excited for tonight. So first, huge shout out to super producer Cindy Ashby for putting this all together and giving us the opportunity to put our intentions, our frequencies out into the ether and change this for the better. And the show tonight is The Fight for Humanity. So you can find us on SoundCloud, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple, and I don't know if I forgot one, but we're out there. We're on all of the frequencies, and much love and respect to the entire On the Wake Up Radio family. Thank you for being here tonight with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so excited.
Thank you to everyone you mentioned, especially Cindy, for like totally helping us make this happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's for the listeners, Jolene and I, we just kind of started speaking, like communicating, and it just happened. It happened really fast. We like knew each other from some energetic force, right? Like all of a sudden it was just there, and I was like, "Do I know you?" And you, like, "Do I know you?" And here we are. And it's interesting because I don't think that they want us talking tonight, right? Whoever it is, because the frequencies are strong. You're feeling them. I'm feeling them. I had some technical difficulties before I came on. My computer went from 70 to almost nothing in a matter of seconds, and I was like, okay. So thank you for being here tonight, and let's mess this shit up.
Oh, it's so good to be with you. I'm wondering, I have a technical question for you. Can I make this a full screen, or does it just stay the way it is?
You can make it a full screen. There should be that little box in it on the right-hand corner, I believe. Let's see. If you go to, it's in the right-hand, it should be in the right-hand corner, and then if you put your little mouse over it, a little box should come up and you can expand it.
In the right-hand corner.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. How do I do that?
So just take your mouse and then into the right-hand corner, and there should be a box that pops up.
Of our, oh yeah, I see it.
Perfect.
Oh, that's
better. It's so much better.
That's such a whole new world. The whole time I was thinking to myself, oh man, you're like a little box in my view here, and I want to see us both here. So, all right, we are in. Let's see how this goes. All right, cool.
We're going to have a great show. You know, you and I had talked a little bit earlier about, where we want to go in the direction of this. And, and a couple of things that we had touched on, which I really liked, and it was just in passing in our little voice messages, was, that this fight for humanity, and do they even know that they have a choice, or that there is, this fight for who we are? People are just kind of going along on the conveyor belt of what I'm told, who I'm supposed to be, this linear, and it's not. It's not any of that.
It is not. It is not. Actually, it's quite multidimensional and super multifaceted, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're seeing that every day, because if you think about it, as human beings, we're so powerful, right? We can create and do just about anything. I mean, look at the world we've created thus far,
Mm-hmm.
So I think about that, and I also think about, like, what exactly is the holdup? Like, what don't they want us to be able to accomplish now? There's a big thing happening. It's much bigger than what we think, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Much bigger than what we think.
I don't think that we'd be able to get we know there's so much more, but because we've never experienced it, we really don't know the vastness or the greatness of what else is out there, right? Like we have glimpses of it. We have pieces that we're connecting to, right? Of ourselves and our higher selves, and those connections we're making. And we're like, wow, this is great. Like, look at who I am. It's pretty amazing.
Right.
How do we help people? How do we, the big topic, how do we make them become aware?
Well, I mean, I guess the first part, what are we making them become aware of? Are we making them become aware of their greatness? Or are we making them become aware of this other particular thing that's happening, right? Because I think that there's sort of a couple things happening at the same time, right? Like, our power is being taken from us, and at the same time, we're going back home to do the homework. Some are, some aren't, right? We're given an opportunity to do that. It's our choice if we decide to do it or not. Uh, but are we actually waking them up to this coup on humanity, which is really what it is? I mean, I got to call it call it a spade. This is a coup on humanity. It's a big plan. It's been in the works for a very long time. So, I'm kind of tired of the attack on conspiracy theorists, because the reality is that a conspiracy theorist is a critical thinker. It's someone who thinks outside of the box, right? Okay. So what are we waking people up to, right? I think we're waking people up to remember their humanity, to remember what we're here to do. We're here to do something very big. And I think in a lot of ways, it's that we're here to fight for humanity. We're here to fight against a program, agenda, a reprogramming that would like to take a part of this heart and soul that we carry and digitalize it.
Yes.
And, we have to get with the program now. We can't be sitting around thinking that, this is okay, or that I'm going to do it because it's convenient, it's easy. No, probably we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
So what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to fight through a lot of fear.
Yes.
A lot.
That's such a it's such a wall, though, isn't it? Because when someone's fearful, I don't want to know. I don't want to hear it. I don't want, they're in that place where it's such a what a great tool to use, have people use against themselves.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think fear is so, oh man, it's just so crippling. I mean, think of the smallest thing that ever happens to you in your life can affect you for the long term.
Yes. Yeah.
It can affect you for the long term, the smallest thing. So now imagine we deposit fear across the board throughout all of the world.
It's there.
That's a shift in frequency. So I've been doing a lot of reflecting about the before. What was the before? Before we were in this moment in time, right? So first of all, I guess before I say anything, because I do want to be really conscious of our frequency and what we're calling in, because I think you and I both know that we're working in multiple dimensional realities. Okay.
Yes.
And we want to really bring in this protection energy around us so that we are guided, right? Projected, protected,
yes,
and directed.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, because I think we want to be very clear that there's always been a battle between light and dark forever, throughout history of the world, right? History of humanity.
Yes.
Let's be very clear that we're talking about things that are of a certain energy, okay? And there's a lot of seen and unseen forces out there in the world, and each person lives in their own reality. Okay, so I want to just start by saying, me as a being on the planet here to fight for humanity, I respect and love all the dimensions of reality that are out there. Okay. Because I've been thinking about this a lot. To be truly sovereign, we have to be able to accept where everyone is. Because if we were to say, well, do this, then we're asking people to do something that maybe is not part of their path, right?
Yes.
And we would be doing the same thing that we're fighting against, right? Trying to make someone do something a certain way.
Yes.
So that being said, I just want to say, I respect everybody's feeling about where they are and what they have the capacity to hold. Okay? Because some people can't even have conversations about these things. It's so overwhelming.
It is. It makes them uncomfortable.
Oh man, it'll spin them out into a whole different world. Okay. So we want to be really aware that not everybody is going to be able to have this conversation, because it brings up a lot of anxiety.
It does. It does. It makes a lot of people, I think it's just self-growth, right? Letting go of something or being willing to change just makes people uncomfortable in general. And then when you're talking on, I guess, to let them go of their own fear, right? To help them when it's them that has to be the one. We can only guide and offer the love.
Yeah, we can write and offer the love and offer some alternate ways of thinking about things, because why not think a little outside the box at this point? Like I said to you earlier, I mean, what do we really have to lose at this point? Now I say that, and as like a witchy seer person, you know, I'm going to knock on the wood because I'm going to say, oh, well, yeah, we still have a lot to lose. Okay. And so, yeah, do we, but what do we have to lose if we don't say anything? Everything.
Everything. Everything. I mean, it's all being taken away. And it's, you know, I see it as the battle of good and evil, of heaven and hell, or like whatever way it is. And it's so much bigger than us. And it's so you for me, like I look at you as someone who's going to help me as well. Do you know what I mean? You're going to help me. So, and then I'm going to help other people, because you are at a, I guess the right word would be a more mature place, you know, of being able to help someone in the thinking of it, if that makes sense that way. Because I'm just coming into that maturity of the thinking, you know, of not being so forceful. Like, no, I want to save you. Let me save you. You know how you don't see it. So that calmness that you bring, you know,
when I talked to you before, I'm just going to throw this in there. When we were on the phone, you were like, but does everyone make it? And I was like, oh, right. Like, this is that part, right? Where, yeah, like no human left behind, of course, right? But is it going to be free will? Like, we have to still think of this in a very specific way, because that's, again, this conversation about sovereignty. And the reason why that's so important to me is that we have to come from a place, like, it's not going to be this duality anymore, this black and white, right? Like, it's not going to be this, you know, it's not going to be this. It's going to be the whole thing, because that's old programming, right? Okay, so going back to the before a little bit, right? We have this idea that human beings, and think about it, the world we were creating was so expansive. Like, we were just moving so quickly. Now, was that a good thing? I don't know. Maybe not so much a good thing. Not as good as we thought it was, right? Now we realize, like, oh, maybe that we were too busy, or, you know, there's so many layers to it, because we can find the good in any situation if we choose, right? Like, many people felt, oh, I was working so hard before this whole thing happened, and now I had all this time to spend with my family, and now I had all this time to do the things that I wanted to do. And that's a great way to look at things. Like, I have to say, it's amazing. I'm so happy that people can find the good in that, right? Okay. Now, the other part is that there's also a whole other layer to that, right? In that we were moving very quickly, and we were creating all of this technological advances, and people were getting very busy, and they were connecting, right? And they were networking and building and making things. And I think we would have been in a much more unstoppable trajectory had this not happened. And I think that's the part that makes it so complex, because we're now being put into a new situation where everyone has to re-identify what's their path, right? And the programming, oh man, like the programming, right? And the predictive programming that we've seen throughout all of the movies we've watched, all of these apocalyptic end time kind of situations that we've been, I mean, I go back and I think so funny, like The Walking Dead and stuff like that. Like, all of that, was it just like a programming? And how are we looking at that? And can we, I have a lot of people sometimes they say, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, how could you believe that? It's like, really? Like, how could you not? But okay, like, but again, okay, it's fine. You know, like, maybe you don't see it that way, and that's okay too. But what I always rest assured about is that no matter what, eventually, in our time in history here on this planet, people will see what this was really about. They will see it, because it will just show itself. You know,
I believe that.
Show itself. And so we won't be in this questioning of what it is. And I wonder if that's when humanity starts to really unify. You know, I know.
I don't mean to laugh, and I've done this before, and I don't mean, but I don't know what's going to happen to some people who's never thought or seen or heard any of what we speak on. Like, I don't know you know what I mean? Like, what happens to someone who all of a sudden, like, realizes that the universe is so much greater than their job and their, you know, like, I giggle, not in the sense of laughing at, but giggle in the sense of it just seems so chaotic and uneasy. You know, like if all of a sudden there's a big reveal and everyone's like, oh, they don't know which way to turn. And that for me, that's the part where, you know, like, I have to, and I've been coming to the realization of what you're saying, like not being my will, like this is how you have to see it. And, you know, this is the way it is. And I think for me, the biggest learning process has been through my family, because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to know, they don't want to hear it. And in my family, I want to say, you know, so it's been a very, and now we're at a point where I can't. You know what I mean? Like it just, you know, you learn through the process, and I think it's always with your family the most curve with it. But I just totally lost my train of thought.
You're saying it's good,
right?
You're saying that you know, how do you help people see it when you know that maybe they can't, or that you know, this big great reveal. Well, I think, again, I think the beautiful part about everything is that I think people see whatever they need to see for their own personal self-growth, right?
Yeah.
And I think that this is really important because, again, this is the thing that makes us human, is that we get to evolve at our own pace in our own way. And we're not quite into this conversation yet, but there's a movement towards transhumanism. And I think that this is the real conversation about, you know, giving people their freedom to be able to experience the evolution of consciousness in their own time, because it's not a magic pill, and it's not something you can just dial up on your Google, Chrome, Firefox, whatever. You know, but here's that piece. Soon you'll be able to, because that's part of this whole thing. So here's that piece, right? It's sort of like, it almost sort of, it's a fast fire speed ahead, right? If we were to allow that to happen. And I just can't imagine that human beings will choose that. And at the same time, look at how easy it's been to shift directions so quickly, right? Look
into the computer,
into this world out there, into this world that we're co-creating out there, because everything that's happening is a co-creation of human beings saying yes or saying no.
Sure.
That's it, right? Because the only way for something to shift and change is for people to agree or to disagree, right? Okay, so this is not just America. Let's also acknowledge that today is November 2nd, 2020, the day before the big selection. The big selection. Let's just acknowledge that we have been waiting for this particular moment for quite some time. And wow, like that actually is freaking huge. Like I was out there, right? It's huge. I mean, I was out there. It is so quiet. It's so quiet.
It's very weird. Like there's no one. I can look outside right now. There's nobody. There's no one on the street.
Right?
I live in Boston. Like there should be some people.
It's so quiet. There wasn't a car on the road. It was so strange. I was driving here. I was like, where did all the humans go? And then I started thinking about them being in their homes and like maybe just like looking out.
It's true though, or online or in the computer. You know what I mean? Like in some aspect of not self.
Yes. Well, again, like if you have a choice to go home and just chill in your house and wait for a storm to pass, you're probably not going to go out in your raincoat and jump around in the puddles. You're going to wait until it kind of gets quiet, and then you're going to go back out. So I think it's part of self-preservation. You know, the energy's a lot. You're picking and choosing who you're having conversations with. You know, this whole thing has also allowed people to curate their life in a different way. I can't say that that's good or bad. In some sense, I would say it's probably very isolating and lonely for many people right now, in the fact that there's no community. You have to have had a community built in already, or you had to have built a new community. But with this restrictions of gathering, I mean, this is like a whole other thing, right? I mean, again,
For the listeners, Boston
Yeah,
now.
I have to do this just so you know. I have to do this so I can move
Get it off.
energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I have I have a red light just because of I could feel the other frequencies. So I put on a red light to cancel all of that other energy. I'm surrounded by crystals and stones. I have my organite. So, but the election too, like all of this energy, it's, I feel like it's such a way of harnessing it too, of controlling it. They can control to digress a little, the energy, they can control it with the frequencies too. They can, that transhumanism, the control that they have, they can just change them or put something out over it. And that's why like everyone's happy on the same day, or everyone's in a bad mood, or everyone, oh, you have the hungry hearts too, me too, like, and it's always that group of people in an area. And it's because it's, from my opinion, put out there. So they have us all in our little boxes looking out little windows right now, right? Waiting. What's going to happen? They're boarding up Boston. They started boarding up New York. And that itself, like when people see that, it changes their energy. It changes how they see it.
I mean, think about it. Like you're in the place that you normally would be in, that you're very familiar with, and all of a sudden it looks like a war zone.
Yep.
So we have to understand also that literally brings fear up to like a whole different level. It's like, whoa, well, what the heck's going on? It's not safe. And I think, there's this other piece, which is like, was it ever safe to begin with? Like, did we live under some disguise that we were like living in this safe world? Like this world has never really been safe. Okay. All right. So I want to backtrack a minute here to the thing that you said about the frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to say this word, or no? We say it on here, or we don't say it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we talk about 5G technology, right, and the rolling out of this particular frequency, we all know that these waves are really harmful to humans. They've been banned in multiple countries all over the world. And yet, because as Westerners, we want everything so fast all the time, I keep hearing Verizon saying, rolling out 5G technology nationwide. I'm like, everybody should be scared shitless of hearing that on their phone, and that they're saying this out loud to us, and we're doing nothing about it. We're not talking about it. And when we talk about it, people say, oh, that's conspiracy. Like, really? Wait a second. Did you know it was actually used for warfare to like make people, more complicit and to down, to make them feel a little crazy? Like they can control so much through frequency.
Yes. People, I don't think people, it's, everybody wants wireless, but nobody thinks about how the wireless works, or the fact it's not bypassing us. It's not like, we're in a room and the frequencies are going, oh, look, let's go around. That's not how it works. They go through and then they use them. There's a patent. It's 6506148B2, and it's the patent that they use for the television screen to control our nervous system. That's the television screen. That's not the phones that we're using, psychotronic weapons that connect with our biometrics. They connect with our meridians. They're actually designed to hook up to connect to our meridians once we touch them. The integration is far beyond. So 5G, it can control people's thoughts. It can make them start thinking something else. I say all the time that I believe our first thought is our authentic thought, and anything after that is not. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what it is, but just a simple example. The other day, Cindy and I, my producer, my friend, we were on the phone, and we were talking about something. She says, "Oh, that reminds me of the song In the Air Tonight." And we both said, it says, "Oh Lord," right? We were both like, yeah, it says, "Oh Lord." And then we both, for whatever reason, second guessed ourselves and thought it said, "Hold on." I don't know why, but we both
said after.
Yeah. So we both said, we thought it said, "Oh Lord." And then we both changed it and thought it said, hold on. And I look it up. It's, oh Lord. Our first thought, our authentic thought is that real one. That second one, I don't know where it comes from. And to piggyback on what you were saying, like, how long have we been changed or controlled, or, you know what I mean? So that we actually have the reality is part of our brain, which I had this conversation with Cindy about this, like, for an hour, about the reptilian part of our brain. Now, if we have a reptilian part of our brain in some aspect, does that mean that we are a creation of that, a version of that? And the reason that I say that is because of the part of the brain it is. So if it's in the base, and then we have two more parts that kind of, I guess, surround it, so to say, in theory, in my speculation, it would be this part would grow first and then the others. So are we a modification? Do you know what I'm saying? Are we a version of something else? Are we a modification of that? And where are these different thoughts coming from? Like, why do we always have that second guess? Like, you know, that changes, I think, a lot of times our path too, and who we are.
Okay, so let's think of it this way, because I love the idea of, like, why do we trust and why do we not trust? And, and what is that about, right? Okay, so I think the first brain is the gut. Okay, so that's literally like our gut, like our second chakra, our womb space, right? We feel it in the body. So even before we even think it and process it up here, I think we feel it, and we feel it there, right? And that's our will. So if we think about being cut off from our gut, right? Like, let's just say our gut isn't communicating with us because we can't feel our divine will, right? Yes. We're going to shut off, and we're going to be looking for another way to rationalize what it is that we can't fully feel. Because if we can't really feel it, then we're not going to believe it, because that's how we actually create, I think, the connection between what is like our truth and what is someone else's truth. That's why they say, trust your gut. Why? Yeah. Well, because the gut is communicating something to you. So the second guess, I feel, is when we don't trust the gut, then the brain tells us, because the brain is a very logical thing. It can give you 1,000 reasons not to trust what you really believe or think, right? Okay, so now let's apply that to confusion, okay? Let's apply that to tons of information being given to humanity at one time, all with an agenda behind it, with each person having a different agenda, right? So I thought it was very interesting when all of this started happening. You know, I have a women's circle, and we gather 3 weeks out of the month, and I focus on a different topic. And one of the things that really kind of stood out to me, at one point, you know, I listened to a lot of people's stories, especially up here in my space, and you know, it started to really stand out to me that, whoa, everyone can use this moment and apply it to their agenda. Like, whatever your agenda is, you can apply this moment to support your agenda, whatever it is, right? And we've seen that with every single movement that has come out of this, let's just call it auspicious time.
Okay, perfect.
Right? Because listen, it's either fully divine, divinely orchestrated, or it's like, oh, bit sinister. Okay, so let's call it auspicious, because I mean, I want to take the taboo pieces out of it and say, you know, what are we? Are we reptilian? No, I think we're divine sparks of light. I really believe that.
Yes.
I think there's infiltrations from different star galaxies. Yeah, probably. I mean, look how big it is. It's a very big place out there. You know, we come from the stars, but there's a frequency that we come from, I believe, that is of the light. It's of the good. It's of something much bigger than us. It's an energy. It's like when you go really deep into like universal consciousness, or you even go down to the beginning of like cosmic earth, right? Like the first seed that was like planted, right? You can feel that God spark like lives inside of every single person. You know, it's pretty phenomenal. Like, I mean, that's like amazing to think about that. Why, you know, but like, why do we have a battle with God? Because we wonder, how could God do all of these bad things? You know, like, how could God if God wants humans to be what they're going to become, like, why would God do bad things, you know? And I think that this is a reconciliation that we're sort of having in this moment. Is like, well, are we really of the divine, or is this some other kind of crazy you know? And I think we have to consider that we really are. And I think that's part of being a light worker, and part of being someone who comes here to help humanity rise, is to be able to turn the light switches on and to help people remember their gut instinct, because these frequencies and everything that's happening right now will cut you off from your gut very quickly. And that's part of the plan. So that's also another really important thing to consider, you know? And so how tuned in are we to our gut? How tuned in are we to our truth? How tuned in are we to something greater than what we can see? And can we also, in addition, like, take ourselves out a little bit and say, whoa, maybe my reality is one reality, and there's probably billions of realities out there.
I think that part of it is it just comes with the growth. You know what I mean? The maturity of self, that overstanding, I should say, you know, that you get to a point and you're like, okay, you know, like I can manage this now.
We're getting there. I think this is going to be a long haul, though. I think we're like right at the beginning of this. I love when people ask, when's this going to be over? I'm like, what?
There's no time. There's no time. I agree with you about, like, so when you were saying about like this whole summer and how everything has been and stuff. And for me, like, I get the distractions and everything that they're doing, but me and my friends, like me and some good friends, we had like the best summer. Like we went hiking and kayaking, and we went into nature, and we went to the crystal store all the time. You know what I mean? Like, so, and I see it the same way. Like, and I would say to people, they're like, I can't wait to go back to work. Like, but you have a family. Like, you have this time. You know, you have this gift of time, which, you know, because time controls everything. You know, it's that thumb that's always there, you know, on time, get on time, money's on time. You know, those are the two, you know, things that rule everyone. And to have
it's our measurement. Time is our measurement. Okay, keep going. I want to just throw that in before I forget it. So.
No, thank you. You're true. That's true though. And it's just, you know, that people, it was, what an amazing time to be able to not be allowed to be anything but yourself. You know, like we had this opportunity to just kind of sit back and I do believe there was a lot of connections made over this time. You know, because of the silence, you know, of the extra noise of the world, so to say, and a lot of growth that's come out of it, and that side of it, you know, these frequencies that we use to communicate with, they squish that. You know what I mean? The algorithms hide that. They hide how many like-minded people are out here actually doing good and have good hearts and have good intentions and are working in those frequencies to change this place, you know, to help bring in heaven on earth. Because ultimately, when we each find that like happy place, or we work with it, and then you find other people who are there and they help you in that direction, that's how, you know, we kind of spread the virus of love, right?
Amazing. I mean, it's pretty incredible. And again, I think that comes back to this curation piece, like, you know, and I agree with you. And, you know, we talked about this on the phone earlier, which is so important, is the censorship, and also like what we're being broadcasted, like what is actually being filtered into our phones, right? And it's funny because I always make a joke, like there's a newspaper around here, like a local newspaper, and it'll pop up on my like my email in the morning. It's literally like so death tone all the time. I'm like, oh my God, you know, you wouldn't want to go outside. If that was like something you read every single morning, like you're not going to go outside, like, you know, but then it's an option of whether or not you want to actually lean into that. You know, I had a great summer too. I had a great summer. I mean, look, was it different? Yeah, everything's different. Okay. But it was really interesting also. Like, I love to kind of study human beings because I feel like they're so fascinating, and there's so many of us, and they're we're all so different, and
So different.
we make up this incredible fabric that we're creating every day.
Mhm.
But I also saw that there was a lot of isolation, a lot of people choosing to really stay within their homestead, or
Yes.
choosing to, I don't think the whole world was expecting to be homeschooling. I think that's also another piece of this, so I don't think that people were expecting to, be this shift. And that's also another piece of this too.
Mhm.
Because if you really think about it, and I'm debating of going to this place right now, but I kind of want to, but I'm like, oh man, So, we have like this triangle in this country, right? We got like the top percentage of the wealth, and then we have like the middle class, then we have, the lower part of this pyramid. And when this happened and they shut down this country, very quickly that middle class just dropped.
Yes.
It also changed the entire structure of family. It changed the structure of, think about the women, think about people who work in service industries. How are you going to go back to work if, you have to be with your children? How are you going to go back to work? And as women, we have really worked hard to get where we are, and now all of a sudden you're back home again with your children. Now, look, I think that's a beautiful thing. I think children need parents at home, but strategically speaking, that's a very strategized drop down in that pyramid.
Yes.
I really thought about that. And then I thought about mom and papa stores, because look, I've had this store here 21 years. It takes a lot to keep a business alive for 21 years, like a lot. Thank God. I mean, I love my customers, thank every one of them for, coming and supporting me all of these years and trusting in me. And, I have really created like a safe environment for people. And, the thing is that it's so hard. And now what's going to happen with this next round, I don't know how small business will stay in. I don't know how that's going to work,
I don't know either. I mean, I live in Little Italy in Boston, and there's easy 200 restaurants. Easy in this area, if not more. And none of them were allowed to be, everyone knows how it's been. But, these are businesses that they're all self-made, like, family businesses or independent businesses and stuff. And they're getting croaked. But meanwhile, the corporate stuff is open and all the nonsense. And it's just, if we don't switch, if that switch doesn't come, if the monetary system doesn't change, if these things won't happen, then it is going to be a very different world. And it may provoke people to either fend for themselves or to come together and realize, like, if we start coming together, that we can actually do our own. We can fix it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't really need other people to tell us how to be, how to love, how to take care of each other.
Well, we're talking about then a break in society. I mean, we're talking about a break in society. And
but if it fails, what do we do? You know what I mean?
If which one fails?
So if all these small businesses start failing, what do people just accept it, or do they now bypass and start taking, like what do people do? Do they just say, okay? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, it's funny because I'm sitting here and I go back and forth between like real talk, like real talk, and real talk, right? Like, all right, like the real talk is that the big piece of the story, whether people want to really admit it or not, or whether we can be brave enough to really see what this is really about, is that this is literally a takeover. This is a whole new world. I mean, this is a new operating. It's a new operating system. Let's just like that. Okay. So small businesses, is it possible that they can make it through? I think for a certain period of time, maybe it's possible. But I mean, we're moving into digital currency. Okay. Yeah. We are. And here's the thing. Let me say this before I say anything else. It's not like they're not telling us.
It's out there. They're saying it.
They're telling us what they're doing. Okay. They're telling us. They even wrote a book about it. Okay. Here it is.
Oh, look at that.
Okay. They wrote the book for us. Okay. Okay, they wrote the book for us.
Imagine.
All right.
Wow.
I mean, like, this is what's so funny about it. So that's the part where I'm like, listen, I'm not sitting around here in my little glass house trying to make up a story. They
Yep.
have told us
What they're doing.
happening. They're telling us. It's
Yeah.
called the Great Reset, everyone. Okay, let's acknowledge it. It's like, you know what is starting to get me is like when you go on a trip and they give you a map of how to get to your destination.
Mhm.
Do you just leave the map at home, or
Yep.
do you take the map with you? Like, let's talk about the map that they're giving us. Okay,
Yeah.
they are giving us a
The
map.
map. Yeah.
This was written by Klaus Schwab, okay, one of the founders of the World Economic Forum. Okay,
That's amazing. That's amazing.
I think he's a professor. Klaus Schwab is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. Okay. I really think he also wrote another book, which I think is quite interesting. It's called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Yet again, telling us exactly what's happening here. So I know we're distracted by these two candidates that are, doing what they're doing. I almost like don't even have a real, I can't even comment on it because it's so absurd.
Mhm.
Because actually both, like everyone has heard the saying, two wings of the same bird. Okay. But I'm going to also say that any system that has the destruction of humanity at its base, I cannot get behind, period.
Oh, me at the same.
Right. And when I have this, which is global, and I know that I'm a global citizen of this world, I can't not look at this. Like,
No.
how am I going to not look at this? I need to look at this. Okay. It tells us that it will be years of rolling this plan out. So when people say, when's it going to end? It's like, no, listen.
Keep going, right?
It's a new plan. So what plan do you want to be on? Like, how do you want to do it? So that's the bigger question. It's like, how do you want to operate? How do you want to do this? How do you want to set in? So when you say, is there like a way to kind of unplug and check out? The bigger question is, can we build a new world? And there was I started to tell you this, but I thought it was so fascinating. One of my friends sent me this letter that was written to the president from the Archbishop of Italy, one of them, who was like an ally to the U.S. And he was saying, and he talked about this. He literally, well, my computer's on. He talked about the Great Reset, and he talks about it in this letter. And he's sharing with him, and he's pleading with him. And he says, but the one thing that this agenda does not remember is that this world is made up of humans who have a heart and a soul. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key.
I agree.
That's the key.
Mm-hmm. I think that's saying that, like, people think it's so corny or whatever, like love's going to save the day or save the world, but it can. That frequency, it can. Yes. I haven't delved too deep into it yet. I just kind of touched a little on it, but there's a document, the Gateway Process, the CIA released. And it talks about our toroidal field and how we're interdimensional, and they've proven all of this. And one of the things in there, it says that if you can line up the binaural beat, is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Binaural beat of your heart and your brain, that you can actually create a painkiller in your body that's stronger than fentanyl. Like, that's how powerful that they're showing that this frequency is, right? Yeah. And it's pretty amazing, because it's like when you start letting go and just realizing, like, a lot of it is noise. This is the
Heart Math Society, the Heart Math Institution in California talks a lot about that, because because our heart has a resonance and a frequency, right? That's why love is the message, because it comes from the heart, right? And then that also makes you question the 6 feet distance.
Yeah. That to me is just that 66666 over and over and over. That getting people to keep saying it and manifesting something we don't want here. by constantly saying that. But I agree, because when you're closer to people, you feel better, you're healthier, you're happy. When you hug someone heart to heart, you feel that.
Yeah, of
You
course.
feel that. You're like, because you have that hug to hug, right? That heart to heart. You're like, that was great. Like everybody always says it after like a real hug. You're like, that was great. Like,
it's like a battery. It's like a solar battery of the heart. You know what I mean? It's like, and you can feel like when you hold on to someone a little bit longer too, like you can feel that energy and that frequency. It's all energy. It's all frequency, all of it, the whole thing.
It is. It's funny because, a lot of people don't, it's the programming. Right? The programming. Everything is like this, it's this, it's this, it's this, when in reality, it's all like this, right? It's all over the place. But people are, it's interesting though. Like, so I don't know why my mind just went here, but so the people who don't get it.
Okay.
How do they not get it? Do they not get it because they're the Mr. Smiths? And they're never going to get it. Like, this is the part of I need that growth, because I'm stuck over here. I don't, am I supposed to keep helping? Am I supposed to just say, forget? Like, I don't know. Cause I can be very, forceful. You know what I mean? Like, not in a negative way, but I can be very forceful in like my intentions or what I want, or be a lot, I guess you could say. Right. So how do you not, when do you know?
Well, I want to just say the first thing, the piece about being a lot, let's just take that off the table, okay? Because there's no more time to be small, and there's no more time to not be the full embodied version of every piece of your energy. So wherever your gamut of energy is where it needs to be. Okay. And I think also as women, it's very important, because I think a lot of times one of the things was to tell people that they're too much. And you know what? That's not true. It's just not. Okay. So I want to like take that off the table.
Okay. We can remove it.
Okay.
we can totally remove that.
We're going to just like take that off. Okay. Be a lot, like be you, be yourself fully, because honestly, the people who are going to be able to resonate with whatever your message is and what you're here to share are going to know that that's part of what they need to hear. I think there's another piece of this, which is like, again, I keep coming back to you asking me this earlier. You just said to me, like, does everyone make it? And like I went home and I was like with my animals and I was letting them out and I was thinking like, does everyone make it? And this idea that you never know when you're going to touch the heart of another person. You never know when that one thing that you say is going to be the thing that someone needs to hear. You never know.
That's true.
So, this is the reason why you can never not remain open to share. You must always remain open to sharing, because you just don't know. You're going to piss some people off? Yeah, probably. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's really that's on the course, right? I mean, that's on the wall.
It's not personal. Like that's the other thing too. Like there's nothing personal about this right now. Okay. This is like global. This is not personal attack on any, okay, because here's where it comes into play: belief systems.
Yeah. True.
Right. Why are we so married to our belief systems till death do us part? Like we need to rearrange that inside of our minds so that we can expand, so that we can think outside of our particular belief system. Because what happens, and I think this is this kind of moment like this, what happens when the belief that you've had your whole life suddenly is very different than what you thought? I think that's been happening a lot. I think that's been the wake up. That's been on the wake up.
Yeah, right. Totally on the wake up. I think a lot of people are seeing there's a change, right? There's something that's shifting. It's just that how strong is their how strong is that person's programming?
And how dedicated are you to working with a system or an ideal or a belief system that really no longer works and no longer serves you? And can we think outside of that maybe there's something beyond that can help us to get where we need to go? That's why I say it's not personal. Like if I don't agree with something that you agree with and that's your thing, it's not a personal attack. Yeah. Like I can still be friends, but we just don't agree. I mean, that's all. The thing is that I think people take neutrality as something that's apathetic. And I think the reality is that neutrality can just kind of be like, I respect that view.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's such a black and white dualistic way to be. I mean, look at the whole thing is set up this way. Like the whole and tomorrow is set up this way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like tomorrow is set up this way. What's coming tomorrow is set up this way. It's like left or right, good or bad, you know, like aggressive and not, or both aggressive, you know, like I've seen some real ugly stuff come out of this. I'm like, man, people like this is what you're fighting for. Like you need to be fighting for humanity. Like, let's get off this political train and like get on with the program here, because when this thing turns and everything is rolling out, it's not going to matter.
Most people won't even know at that the thought process. Well, you know, with that though, I don't think a lot of people are aware of the fact like their thoughts won't be your own. They're not going to be your decision anymore. You know, that decision that we were talking about, that first or that second, you know, that got one, that won't happen anymore because it'll be an override.
No one wants to talk about that.
Okay? It's what it is.
No, but listen, no one wants to talk about that. You want to know why? Because that's called sci-fi. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Sci-fi was never real, right? That was never real. Mm-hmm. AI is coming. Yeah. We know that. No one wants to talk about it. I guarantee you right now, some people who are tuned in are probably like, I can't even listen to this.
Yeah. But
people don't want to talk about it.
See, for me, this is my rabbit hole. My rabbit hole started with the AI and the nano, and you know what I mean? So this is like, and I've done my homework on this, and I'll tell you, I can see the AI takeover already in people, and that they don't want to hear either. And it's here, it's happening. You know, people, I say it often that I think a lot of people think like an alien invasion is going to be these dudes walking down the street, and it's not. You're holding it.
Right. You know why I don't love AI? Because I love the great mystery.
Yeah.
I love spirit. Mm-hmm. I love spirit communication. I love the soul. I love this mystical, magical piece that happens that we can't explain, but is so incredibly divine. Mm-hmm. You know, like to me, I would never trade that for anything, because that's the real magic, right? So like for me, I'm not good. There's no convenience in the world that I'm going to give that up for. And, I
could live without it. I mean, in reality, I could live without it.
Well, I mean, you know, my head starts going to the place where we know about the vaccine, and we know, you know, like, okay, well, that's like a whole no amount of convenience. So like, if I can't get on a plane to go wherever I want to go again, because I'm not going to have this thing, which we all know probably is most likely not going to be a choice. You know, I'm willing to give up that convenience, because to be quite honest with you, I would not want to hand over my soul and my sovereignty to anything or anyone. Yeah. And I feel very strongly about that. And, you know, it's funny because I feel a lot of people feel strongly about that too. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, they're not realizing the severity and the fine line that we're walking in this moment.
I agree. They don't see it's here. It's walking with us, so to say, right? They don't see that, and all just going to be is this quick integration, and then it'll all change.
And like, how crazy that we're sitting here having this conversation about this, because in reality, it's like we're entering this whole new world. And, you know, yes, they're giving us a little map, but along the way, there are a lot of detours. And so, you know, I keep thinking of it like this. Like, I can't stop thinking of it like a map, like that we have a map for this. And yet it's so unclear. And this idea of quickly moving to find your space and your place, like, where's your food? Where's your water? Like, do you have the things you're going to need? I mean, I was laughing tonight when we're on the phone and you're like, look, there's no toilet paper. I'm like, holy crap. Like, All
Yeah.
right, back again, here we go, round two,
Yeah, there's no toilet paper, there's no cleaning, there's no paper towels. My friends went food shopping yesterday. They said there was a line. They said everyone was crazy. Gas prices are up to like 250 in Boston. Like, so when you start paying attention to these little pieces of everything, there's something happening. Just to circle for a second when you mentioned the vaccines, because I've reflected on this a lot, and it's not it's not the specific vaccine, it's the talk of the vaccines, because
Right.
I have every once in a while, like my memories show up on on FedBook, and it says, oh, you said this on this day. And I started looking at some of the stuff, and I was like, well, but I'm still talking about that. But I was talking about that 4 years ago. But I'm still talking about that. And then I started really for me, and I always recommend this is not to just learn stuff, but to apply what we're learning. Like literally take what you've learned and become a better person from it. And I started realizing that a lot of this talk with the vaccines is the same repetition. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to force something, they're not going to do it, but it's that perpetual conversation that keeps going around. And in that, it's creating another level of fear. Do you know what I'm saying? And so in without paying attention, even in the community that's aware, right? Here we are, and people are saying, we're trying to make people aware, oh, here's the vaccine, they're coming out with this, coming out with this. And in that moment of sharing that, it creates a whole level of fear in a lot of people. I don't want it. I'm not going to get that. You know what I mean? And that in itself is now a whole different element of control. Right?
Well,
they keep doing it. Like you were saying, like how long have they been doing this? And they keep doing it over and over and over again. So if 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I'm talking about forced vaccines, and fast forward this year and we're still talking about forced vaccines, what are we giving our attention to as well? Because if we keep giving our attention to this, like how are we changing it? Do you know what I mean?
But I think the more complex piece about that is that this is a worldwide thing. Okay. So before, what stood out to me was like maybe even just 2 years ago when they took the religious exemption away from California. I always thought, oh, wow, California, like that's a place you could go and you could be free. You know what I mean? It's like, it's this super liberal place. Like, this is the way I thought. And then I'm like, why are they taking the religious exemption away? Like, what's going on there? It made me think for a minute. And now what you see what they're doing now, it's like, whoa, it's like bump, 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 no more. So what are we doing about it? Like energetically by creating the fear around talking about it. Well, I think the other thing is that think about this idea that you're keeping somebody safe. Again, back to this safety word, okay? This safe word. I think this is very important. And then not to mention, look at how fast this is coming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're not questioning this. Like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? And every person that has talked about these vaccines has been censored.
Yes.
Okay. You only censor people when you know that what they're talking about is probably true. And you don't want to get it out there because you don't want to wake people up, because you don't want a revolution. But guess what? This is an evolution revolution, okay? Like that's kind of where we're going at this point. And how fast we get there, well, that's how quickly we get the fear out of our heart and we fill it with love. Because the thing is that when you watch your people all of a sudden start to, I'm not even going to say it, you're going to feel like I've got to do something about this. Because listen, the big plan, whether people want to totally accept it or not, and I don't know what it's going to take for us to fully get it, is depopulation. Okay? Like, I'm sorry. Like, this is the truth. Okay? It sucks. You think I want to say that? That's the last thing I want to say. You think I want to sit here and say that? Because I don't want to bring fear in. I don't want to bring fear in, but I'm also not willing to overlook the truth about what is actually really going on here.
Yeah.
I agree. It's fucked up.
It is. It's extremely fucked up. It really is. And
it's not a theory.
No.
It's not
No. No.
you know, and I say that this is the spirit warrior now needs to wake up in us, because we have to remember that we came here to work for the light. We came here to battle that piece that wants to take us,
That way.
and it wants to literally take us, and then of course I go into free will and destiny, right? Like, and is it already written? Is it already written? Or are we co-creating it? Like,
could we, if it was already written, could we co-create something else?
of course. And isn't that maybe what we're actually supposed to do?
I think so. We're supposed to create what we want ultimately, right? I mean, isn't that what we should be doing?
Well, we should be actually teaming up and co-creating something collectively as community builders, you know?
Yes.
And that piece is like, we have to imagine something much bigger, right? This evolution revolution is about getting people on board with something other than what they're being sold, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very powerful. Like, what is being sold right now is very powerful. And very debilitating.
Yep. In every angle. I mean, it's like shots being fired everywhere, right?
Yes.
And you're kind of running that obstacle course of which I think for a lot of people is very difficult, you know, because when you don't find that peace, or you're not like having those moments with yourself to be like, it's okay. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be okay. We can do this. We've survived up to this point. You know, like, we're doing okay.
We can keep going.
Yeah, we're all right.
But maybe like that's a piece of it. Like, what about like our stamina? Like, how are we doing with our stamina? You know, I like to do a little check-in with my people. Like, okay, so where are we at? Like, how's everybody feeling? Where are you? You know, because I think that, you know, it can get very easy to just kind of focus on your world, right? But
especially when you're closed in it.
Yeah. And now it's getting cold.
And
you know?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it's like, and, you know, I think part of just the curfews that they're putting in now are so people don't see what's going on in the sky. I really like, why else do you want us in the house at 10 o'clock at night? What are we, children?
Well, I mean, you know, when I was first in the months of March and April, I was like calling my mother and being like, okay, just so you know, like, we're all in the house and I'm driving around and I'm seeing them all out there putting up those 5G towers. So don't even tell me that you got to stay in your house like that. Why? Well, of course, why? Well, yeah, definitely that happened. Because when we all came out of our house, those towers were everywhere, period. Like, well, of course. I mean, think about the amount of money that is out there to roll out these things. I mean, that's big industrial complex money. Yes, correct. Right?
If not trillions.
Yeah. And also, let's just acknowledge that as human beings, there's way more of us. And I keep coming back to that. And I always
good point. It's a good point.
You know, I always see that you've definitely seen it. I'm pretty sure that illustration where it's like they're sitting alone. There's a table above them, and it's like all of the like wealthy. Yeah. It's like all we have to do is stand up.
It's so true.
But we have to stand up out of violence. Like, that's the piece. No violence. You know.
I agree.
That's the problem right now, because right now, you know why people are in their houses? Because it's been completely like set up for rioting and all this. I keep praying, you know, I was thinking today, especially, I was like, I want to pray really deeply for like peace to come into people's hearts who feel that they need to rebel against something and actually find another way for us to get there, because this piece of our anger and this collective anger that's inside of humanity right now, there's reasons for us to be angry. It's not like we shouldn't not be angry. There's a lot of reasons for human beings to be angry. So like, let's acknowledge the anger. Let's get to that place. Let's get it out of the system. But do we have to physically and violently destroy each other and other people's businesses to do that? Like, is there a way for us to do this differently? Can we channel that energy in a different way?
Yes,
right?
Of Of course we can. Of course we can. It's that, it's fun. It's that hostility and that violence against each other. It's like the predator, we'll say, has gotten it. You know what I mean? It has people doing just keeping us more and more separate. And ultimately, we're the ones that we need each other. Like we can help each other, we can benefit each other. And it's that programming, that wall, that thing that's blocking right here, right? That we have to get through. And it's so difficult because they're sitting and they're listening into these things and they're in front of the frequencies, or they're on Facebook, right? Getting all the information on Facebook while it's, it's sending the frequencies and it's controlling the thought process. And it's this system of,
it's those algorithms that are so strong. Like, wow.
Yeah.
And more and more and more. I know that many people who will hear this know that you think a thought and you think you're psychic because all of a sudden it's on your phone.
Connected.
I mean, maybe that too. I don't know. Like,
the AI can predict what we're going to say and do in real time.
Right.
It knows what we're going to say. It knows us so well. It can predict what we're going to do in real time. And that is Minority Report. Mm-hmm. That was one with, what's his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Tom Cruise.
Who?
Tom Cruise.
Oh, no. Wasn't it that other guy?
Who was it?
I thought it was the one that's from Boston. The brothers, Ben Affleck's friend, the one.
Matt Damon?
Yeah, that guy.
I don't know.
No?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think it was Tom Cruise.
Okay.
That was when the AI started predicting people were going to do murders, and they started arresting people before they did a murder.
Whoa.
So when you look at these things, like the scripts that they've written, do you know what I'm saying? Like they write these scripts, they put it out, they put it into our mindset, so we're either waiting for it or fearful or, or even if it's something on the upside, like, every girl wants to be a princess, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But that it's buried inside. And in Minority Report, the AI could predict what people were going to do in the future. Like, so in the immediate, like 24-hour future. So they had to go and like stop a murder before and arrest the person before they even murdered somebody. And that's the part, so this does read our thoughts. We are, Elon Musk said a couple of years ago that there was, that basically we were already connected, but he had to just tweak a little bandwidth connection. I'm pretty sure he's tweaked it. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure he's done a little tweaking in there, that it's already what it is. And that one final step is the 5G. Because if we are already the World Wide Web and we are connected through this neural lace, now you're going to hook us up to a system where routers are every street light or everything. And just a total side note on this, people can write their broadband communication in their area or call. Like I've talked to the head of the broadband in Boston several times, and he has actually emailed me all of the 5G layout plans for the city of Boston. I have all of the signed contracts. I have all of the stuff that's in every light post. I have all of the stuff for the magnetrons. And when people actually start, this is the little things that we can do to get involved to change things. When you start seeing it and really understanding what's taking place, and you're like, oh, it's outside my kid's window. Okay. It's in front of the school. Okay. Things like that.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't think the kids are going back to school for a very long time unless there's the big V,
Yeah.
And I think that's, once you start messing around with people's kids,
it's a problem.
I mean, the kids are everything.
Yeah, they are.
They're everything. They're the world.
Supposed to protect them. Everybody.
Like, that's where you'll see me just like, I can't.
The mama bear, right?
Just the children, they're so powerful.
Yeah, they are. And they want, the thing too is now they have children in virtual. So you have a child sitting in front of an AI, the frequencies all day long, but it also gives them access into your home.
Oh, yeah.
People don't realize that. They have full access into your home now. They can visually, all they need to do is go, oh, look, this is how this is, or this is how, I have a friend and she is amazing. She has a garden that is absolutely massive, totally sustained her family all summer long, growing her own food. They do all of this stuff. Her children do not watch TV. They don't have computers. They don't have iPads. And in fact, she had to argue with the school over this, but she wound up getting books. So now her children are actually learning from books and not from the computer. And it was, imagine what a process it is just to have her child learn from a book instead of a computer.
I mean, but it also changes the life of the parent too. Like this shift in structure of education, really changes everything.
Yeah.
I've really thought about that so much because I think, wow, how different that is for women.
Mm-hmm.
Because not every woman is a stay-at-home parent.
No, a lot of women work. I mean, I know more people who work and have children than actually are home.
Right. Yeah.
With them,
And, we're not talking even about the PTSD of this whole thing. This is also really important. What is happening, and think about, we're at month 9. Is that right? Let me think.
15 days.
Yeah, we're at month 9.
We're about to give birth.
Well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we really are, actually, because we're headed into the month of the third eye. So we are giving birth to a new vision, but what is that vision going to be, right? And can we trust the vision that others have for us, or are we determined to actually create our own vision? I think that could be a question that many people can kind of really start to play around with. If you want, to go to a place like that, it's like, okay, so would you rather work with a vision that's yours, or would you like to work with a vision that's being told that that's the vision you need to see? I think that we need to be considering something there. We are about to give birth. And so what's the thing we want to actually birth, and how do we want to do it, right? And, something that I see is a restructuring completely of all the things we ever thought the future would look like. I was at, I'm going to really try to find this on my phone. I was at Art Basel. It had to be about 5 years ago down in Miami. And there was this frame on the wall, and it says, "The future ain't what it used to be." And it was a long time ago. And I saved that because I was like, oh, one day I'll definitely post that somewhere. I need to take that picture, And I was like, oh, it's very pre-premonitional. This person, this artist, had a vision for this thing. And, I think back wow, they really kind of got it. But at the time, we were thinking that the future wasn't what it used to be because we were thinking it was becoming too digitalized, that everything was so social media and social media this, social media that, And now I'm starting to realize that what we really thought we were looking at is very different than what we're looking at now.
Yes.
So how quickly does that kind of thing change, right? And could the narrative of this dynamic and situation shift that quickly too? I know a lot of people, isn't it fascinating to hear everyone's opinions, that there's so many beliefs? I mean, I'm kind of fascinated by it. I always ask people, so what do you think? Because I'm curious, okay, so where are you in the process of all of this,
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people who were having, a lot of conversation well, as soon as this election's over, this whole thing's going to disappear. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Let's hear the next one,
Right.
And I think that there's something, and this other idea, or this feeling that people have where they say, well, we believe in science. Well, guess what? I believe in science too. And also I recognize that there are people within science that do not have my humanness, best interest in mind. And I do believe in science, but you know what? I also recognize that a lot of pharmaceuticals and a lot of big drug companies have not had human beings' best interest in mind.
No.
This bigger idea that okay, let's just say shit goes and hits the fan, right? Let's just go there for 1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say, all right. So I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a huge percentage of this population that is addicted to painkillers, motion suppressants, you know, all of this. So can you imagine? And there are some incredible people talking about this, you know, what would happen? What happens like when all of a sudden this population doesn't have access to these pharmaceuticals? I think we saw it last year at the beginning of this pandemic where they said, oh, go and get backups for all of your medicines. I mean, we have to also talk about like, well, what would it be like to not have access to the things that keep you balanced, right? And what does it mean to really take back your body, your mind, and your spirit? And what does it mean to hold that in such reverence that you will do whatever it takes to stay in that healthy space for yourself? And do you have the will to do it? And then if you're not connected to your gut, then can you really trust that you have the power to do that? Yeah.
Those are good questions. I know I'm echoing. It's weird. Am I echoing on your end?
Just a little bit.
Okay. I don't know. Let me see if I do that.
I'm going to grab something. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course it is.
Hang tight.
Yeah, do whatever you need to do. This is a great conversation. I'm loving it. But those are good questions. I mean, where do you start? Which one? Which one do we start?
Where do you start?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Trying to think of which one I want to go to. I love that picture. Accessory communications. That helps with.
I want to see if there's any questions that came in on the Instagram live. Let's see. I'm very curious. Let's see.
Me too.
All right. Let's see here. I see my people on here. So sweet.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on. It's so good. Thank you so much. So good. Let's see where we're at. We got some, all big soul family going on here.
Oh, I love it.
So great. Okay.
I don't know why I have an echo.
Hold it. I'm going in. Okay. Got some mass conversations. Someone says there was nothing normal of how we were living. Correct?
Well, how would we be if we weren't told? You know, that's that question. Who would you be if you weren't told to be who you are?
Who would you be if you weren't told to be who you are?
Because we're told who to be. We're told that, you know, you're an American, or you're, you know, wherever you grow up, you're this is your religion, this is your area, this is your things, and there's so many things that we're told this is who we're supposed to be. This is who we are. But I wanted to go back to the when you asking about, you know, the people on the medication and drugs. There's a couple of comments that come in on over here, and some people are gonna go crazy when they have no drugs. There'll really be a zombie out there. You know, the interesting thing is for me, it's not just the mental aspect that's going to take place. It's the physical, it's the mental. You know, what happens to someone when they're not in control of their pain, their body, their thoughts? You know, like how many people take anti-anxiety medication? Right. And, you know, and it's to suppress their feelings. It's to suppress their emotions. And in reality, and all of a sudden that's cut off, and now you're in a world that you don't recognize anymore.
Right.
You don't recognize this time space because it's not the same one that it was. And how do you cope? You know, what is going to happen to people, like physically and mentally, because it's going to be it won't be just one thing, because how much of an effect this medication has on the body. Or the other thing too is, what are people really taking? You know what I'm saying? Like,
what are they taking?
You know, like we could say, you know, well, this one's on something for antidepressant, or this one's on it for high blood pressure. But in reality, we don't know what's in that pill. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it may help to maintain something, but if we're talking about a system that's corrupt, my assumption would be, do you know what I'm saying? There's another element in there that would ultimately make someone feel shitty when they stop a pill or something. Like, for example, years ago.
Well, they're emotional suppressants because that's like that piece of like, can we allow ourselves the capacity and space to feel?
Well, it'll be interesting. So for people, but I can speak on a personal experience from Adderall, right? Years ago, the doctor put me on Adderall, and I noticed a few things on it. One, it was cutting off my empathy, and it was cutting off my creativity. And in fact, it really hurt my I'm an amazing artist. I can do all sorts of stuff, and it cut off my creativity. Like, it cut it. Like, I would come home every day and make stuff, and that I was no longer making anything, and it cut it off. But that pushy, that me being extra, me, I would go back and forth with the doctor, and I pissed him off one day, so he cut me off completely. Literally cut me off from Adderall. And I was like, I don't really care, but can we taper off of this? He's like, no. And he cut me off. And I am I'm not a raging person. I'm not I can be forceful, but I'm not an angry person. I was so fucking mad all the time. Like, I was angry. In fact, I had a couple of rage fits. And one of them, I was so embarrassed because it wasn't me. And when I looked it up afterwards, it was literally a withdrawal from the Adderall. So if you can change my persona and and I can tell you that it did, right? If you can change it that much, and I was only on it for a little time, what's going to happen to the children, right? Who have been on Ritalin or Adderall their whole life and now are adults and still taking some form of it. It's a good question, because what kind of society is going to come out of something like that? It's not going to be a healthy one.
No, and it's already
a sick one.
Yes, correct. And what's that saying? It's no measurement to see how well you're adjusted to a sick society, right? Mm-hmm. So I actually also think that the fear, the scare of that in particular is we were also moving towards wellness, mm-hmm. a real focus for people. Think about how many people were starting to open up their minds to something beyond what they were programmed to be taking to suppress their emotions, right? Because, I mean, here's the beginning. So the trauma that each person experiences in life, in different parts of their life, different years of their life, is an energy that gets trapped inside of the body, right? And then when we don't have access to being able to really work with those emotions, it's much easier to just shove them down a bit further, right? So that's kind of why people go to that space where they're like, you know what, I think I need this thing to help me, rather than really getting to the bottom of it and healing and forgiveness, or giving, surrendering and giving it over, or really getting to the bottom of like, okay, see, for me, healing works in this way. We have to get the soul lesson. We have to understand very deeply what it was here to show us on a soul level. And it's not until we really get that we start to actually do the healing process, because then we start to transmute the energy, but not until we can actually understand what it was here to show us deeply, like in those patterns, right? In the way that we look at our life. And it's so beautiful, because when that healing happens, it's almost miraculous, because the pain is no longer the pain that it was originally, right? We engage with it differently. So when people don't do that work and they start to just kind of band-aid it up with different pills or addictions and things like this, we get into this habit of thinking that things can just quickly disappear, right? Like that we can be like this new person. Now, let's just say society goes in the direction that it's going and we don't have access to those things anymore. What will it be like for people to wake up to their real true emotions? It's going to be extremely unstable. It's very alarming. I think we need to be I think that one of the things that, we need to be doing is really encouraging people to start now, because, again, it's funny because I hear us, I'm listening to us talk, and then I'm also going to another place that says, okay, well, what if that none of that happens and we actually get to a better place faster because we're setting our sight on this new thing we're creating? And is there the divine intervention that will come to help us? So I want to say this, and I want to share this with you. So I have had like a lot of very mystical experiences, and a lot of people that have showed up here in different periods of my life. and people that, are of many different religious affiliations and have just bridged their way here, people that would never find their place here in that sense, like different people from Orthodox communities that maybe would not show up in a place like this, doing work on energy and energy centers. It's a bit taboo, and, other types of religious people and experiences like that who feel called to come here and sit at this table and speak with me and talk about these other things that are outside of their belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So it was about a year and a half ago or so. I had a group of women show up here, about 13 Orthodox women. And they asked if they could do a private event here. And I was like, let's do it. So they were here. And then they asked if I could come up and sage them. And so we did that. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then they were journaling and doing all the things that they were doing here. And at one point I came upstairs and it was a very emotional day. There was a lot of healing happening, a lot of emotion. It was all happening in this space. And I came up and they were praying, they were sitting here praying. And I asked them, so what's the story? Like, what do you think's going to happen? Because we're all talking. And at that point, something's coming. Mm-hmm. And I would always have at my sound ceremonies here that talk. And I would say, something is coming. I don't know what it is, but something's coming. And I knew it for a very long time. My whole life, I believe I've known that this was coming.
Yes.
So they said to me, well, one day the sky's going to open up and you're going to hear the shofar and the sky's going to open up and you're going to hear the shofar and it's going to be the calling. And I said, oh, that's so interesting, right? The next day, this woman comes in, she's evangelical, and she's like, you got to read this book by this preacher. It's amazing. I was like, oh, well, what's it about? And she's like, it's about this second coming. I was like, oh, well, what do you think is going to happen? Because I want to know, what do you think is going to happen? Remember, this is like a while ago, over a year and a half ago. And she goes, well, one day the sky's going to open up and you're going to hear the horns and the sky's going to part. She's like, and the second coming, Jesus is going to come. I was like, wow, that's so interesting. So I thought to myself, like, whoa, you know what? What if the second coming isn't the Messiah, but what if humanity is the second coming? What if we are the second coming together? What if humanity rising is this new heaven on earth that we're pulling in, right? And can we imagine that that's what we're here to create, that every human being has a role to play in that? Because here's the thing, I don't believe that it's just one group of people or another group of people. Like, it's the whole thing. It's the world, right? It's like the whole incredible world. And then, of course, I was thinking about this earlier and I was like, I'm going to tell you this story. And then I thought to myself, oh, you know what? And then in March and April, there was all that conversation going around about the blue beam technology, right? Okay. And I was like, we've both gone down every rabbit hole there possibly is, right? And in a lot of ways, I mean, I find it to just be so fascinating because there's so much out there.
Yes.
And the thing about it is that it's all actually real, right? Like, they've used all of this technology on us. And you can go into like all these different portals of like religious belief systems that all have a vision for what's coming, right? We call it end times, apocalyptic, you can call it the prophecies, like we've all had some programming of this moment since the beginning of our cognitive recognition of a shift in time and space and the time-space continuum. And so now we're in this sort of like portal of like, well, which one are we going to choose? And I think that that's really fascinating, because if humanity can wake up to this second coming, maybe it's what we're birthing is that internal spirit to wake up, that divine spark, that when we recognize that we're built from this love, that, whoa, like we won't be able to shut off to it because it's so alive in us. that we become magnetic to it. And when we wake other people up, it's like we start to kind of turn these light switches on. And I have to hold the prayer for that, because I mean, I can't imagine that we don't get there. I just can't imagine that we don't get there.
So I think of it. I don't know why.
Yeah, you're going.
Am I still? Is that better?
It's good.
Perfect. If I logically think about it, then fear, programming, do you know what I mean? Concern, that all kicks in. But when I sit for a second and I feel it, I feel like we're gonna be okay.
Oh yeah.
I genuinely, like, that part of me inside is calm. You know, it's the running, you know, it's getting I guess it would be getting like what's okay in here to control what's going on in this little computer up here. Because, you know, logically I could be like, wow, this is coming and they're saying this and this is out in the street. You know, you can go through all of these things where it's a problem, it's a problem, it's a problem. But at the same time, you know, when you look at the two sides of it, we'll say, right, so we have all these problems. We can name 1,000 things that are wrong. But like you're saying, but the right side of it is that people like myself and you and other people, we are connecting. And in a way that is, it's not just like, oh, I just met you, maybe we can have a coffee, or we're connecting on a level where it's like, like that love and that desire for everyone to be okay. Do you know what I mean? It's like we're bypassing the first date and we're going to the marriage. Do you know what I mean? Of the connection of who we are. And that in itself has to excel time. Right? I mean, that it can't, you know, if at one time space, if we were talking about maybe even 5 years ago, if you and I met, and for the listeners, when we met, it was an immediate, like, it wasn't like, oh, hi, I was like, I know you, like, and so that part of it, you know, that in an essence is our connections that are sped up, right? And we may not be able to oversee the power of that, but when we like have talks like this, you know, when we talk about that, like, you know, in reality, when you meet most people, it's a process to get to that point of love, right? You know, oh, I get to know you. But when you're coming from that space, then it's love. Like, I have love. There's love. It's everywhere, and that process is so much faster. You know, that frequency. So inside, I'm always okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know it's going to be okay. I know these heart connections that I'm making with people. You know, that the interesting thing is these things that are supposed to keep us separate have wound up bringing us together. And is that because we have put different frequencies into the ether, into this box, that we're willing it to change? And by the law of nature, it has to change with our will. You know what I'm saying? So all of the stuff, you know, Max Spears said, everything, you know, we already won. It all has to play out. It just the story has to keep going, and then we'll be okay. And I think if everyone holds on to that part of it and knows, like, we're going to be okay, then we'll be okay.
And also, if we can wake up to this surrender to something greater than ourselves, being the divine, because think about it, like, this world is too incredibly magnificent to be human made. Okay. Like, look at the animals, look at the trees, like, connect to nature. Like, you just go to nature and water even, right? And you're like, whoa, like, this is heaven sent. This is, you know, beyond human made. Because, you know, I had a thought while you were talking. And one of the things that came is, like, no human truly wants to hurt another human being. No, we don't. We do. We want to be the frequency of love. We want to help people rise in that energy of the heart, because it's good. Right. And we know that the battle of light and dark, the light wins, right? We know that. But can we play that story out in a much deeper way? Can we start to make it our responsibility? Can we stop looking at other people's shoes and imagining what it's like to walk in their shoes, and start becoming responsible for walking in our own? Like, I think this is very important, you know? And And I think that that comes down to like our moral compass. And I think it goes beyond this climate tomorrow. There's a part of me, I'll be very honest with you, like I'm pretty checked out of the political arena because I mean, this is so much bigger than that to me.
Yes.
Like I am on a, like my daily, my daily mental state is around this fight for humanity.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so, every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, today it's another day, like to do this work for humanity. Who am I going to help? Who's coming through? Who needs to be sitting in a space of quiet peace? Who needs to be in a frequency over there? Like who needs what they need and how can I help them? Mm-hmm. And I think that actually on a day-to-day basis, each person can start to think outside of their world and start to consider that we're here to really help each other. Yes. And together we rise. And it's one phone call. You're one phone call away from making a difference in someone's life. And I think that we have to kind of remember that right now, especially as it becomes darker, especially as things become a little bit more crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think if we expect the crazy, do you know what I mean? Like just expect it. Expect the crazy and you'll be all right. Do you know what I mean? Like just you'll be okay though, because when you don't expect things, you're like, oh my gosh. But I mean, if you go over this entire year, you should probably expect some crazy. I made a post the other day, and I had said something to the effect like, 2020 is like that one friend who gossips all the time and tells you everything, but in the memory, the story gets changed a little bit. And then it's also like that other friend who's always screaming for attention, right? Like that's kind of 2020. And both of them are okay because we know that's what those friends are like, right? This is how it is. This is how 2020, it's like a combination of that. But, when we start going back to the same, like we were saying, like, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to end.
I mean, think about this. I mean, 2020 is perfect vision, right? Mm-hmm. So we're actually getting a taste of what it's like for each person to have their own perfect vision, mm-hmm. right? Each person gets to choose what is their vision, right? And if you have this opportunity to have perfect vision, what can you envision for yourself? Now, we only have a month and a half left to get there. So here's the thing. This month, okay, is about the third eye. It's about reflecting, okay? The third eye, it's like a cone on both sides, inside of your head, okay? And it literally is about reflecting on the past while looking at the future, being in the present moment. So what do we want to create from this space of the third eye vision? It's our psychic awareness. Like how tuned in can we get in this moment, right?
Yeah.
To be able to imagine something bigger than what we're being fed. I'm saying that because I think it's very important. I think no matter what happens tomorrow, like it's all the same.
Yeah.
So it is, because that's the thing. This is so much bigger than that. Mm-hmm. This is so much bigger than that.
It is.
And
that's how they hid.
Wow. I mean, like, that's the part that I just think to myself, like, I don't know. I come here, I see my clients, I do all my one-on-one work, I do some group stuff, I have the stores open and, I think to myself, like, and then I go home and I'm not going out onto the highway and into the world. And because I don't want to go out there and engage in this.
I think a lot of people, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people who are like-minded, like feelings, are feeling the same way. It's too people-y.
And I love people, but you know what?
I
love people so much. Like I live for human beings. Mm-hmm. Like I live for humanity. Yep. I love people. But what I don't really love is the frequency of fear and separation that so many people are experiencing. Now, given the opportunity, and a lot of people who know me know this, I'll talk to anybody. So if I'm out there, yeah. So if I'm out there in line in the store, like we're having a conversation about this, like something like this. It's always the same thing. It's like, how are you doing with all of this? And then they'll tell me, and I say, well, it's much bigger than that, right? And then the conversation opens up. And I think that that's a part of my responsibility in some way, just to kind of plant some seeds, right? Like just to kind of, and most of the time, I'm going to tell you, they know.
Mm-hmm.
So this is important, back in June or so, in one of my circles, it was very funny because it was right when everything reopened again, and people were saying like, what, are people just lying to each other? So they're like pretending one thing in one group of people, and then they're doing something else in a whole other group of people. And I thought, oh, it's kind of interesting, because when push comes to shove, you're going to protect yourself and your family, right?
Yeah.
Like, protect your people. Well, what if humanity, push comes to shove? Are we going to protect humanity? Are we going to fight for humanity? So is that where we're going to end up, right? And I'm going to say yes, because when it really comes down to it, I believe that we're going to see this big shift when this big old vaccine rolls out, because that's when you're going to be given an opportunity and choice to decide whether or not you're going to go that route, And you know what? It's not about vaccine, pro-vaccine, or anti-vaxxers or anything like that. It's not about that.
It's choice.
Yeah.
It's a choice. It's
yeah.
Since I have been little, I do not do well with
needles.
Authority.
Oh, authority. I was like, I don't do well with needles.
Yeah. No, I don't do that well. I don't do that with that either. I have to make a clicking noise. They skeeve me out. It's so nasty. But I don't do well with authority. I don't like being told what to do. Like, even as a child, like my mother said, like, she's like, you could always do anything. You were always on the go. She was like, you were always capable, like you were always on some mission and doing something, but you were always like rebellious. And it wasn't rebellious to like what was morally right. It was rebellious to telling me what I can and can't do. Like, to this day, I have a very hard time with someone like, I can't, like, who are you to tell me? I just don't get it.
I agree. You know what my whole thing was? I was always like, no one's the boss of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. And in some ways I think it's okay, because it means that we're like standing in our own personal power. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, in different dynamics and situations, it's a real growth tool.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like what do we actually surrender to, and what do we know we have to stand in our power around, right? And this kind of thing, this is absolutely a 1000% the exclamation point. No one's going to tell me what I'm going to do with my body and my mind and my soul. And
that's a strong feeling too. It's not it's a very,
it's like visceral, right?
In the nicest way, but you'll feel that I mean it in the strongest way, right? It's like,
It's really strong, because that there's something about it that if you were to hand that over, it wouldn't be in good hands.
No.
So, like, you want to be the one that like really holds the safety of your life,
of me,
your chi, your life force energy, the whole thing that's you,
Yeah.
So interesting. I know. I really think that's going to be one of the points where we really start to see some of these tables turn.
I can hear it in conversations. People who never say anything now are like, wait a minute. Yeah.
But I mean, back to this one piece, I think we need to be very aware of the censorship that's happening.
Yes.
What does that mean? Like, how is that? It's very threatening. This whole week with all of these people, I mean, there was that one day where literally like, they took down so many people's accounts. And they had big followers. They were truth tellers. They were, they were really good researchers. They were doing the good research, because there's a lot of information out there. And let's also just acknowledge that too. Mm-hmm. There is some incredible information out there if you are willing to go and do the work. Yes. If you are willing to stay up at night and read your ass through something all the night, right? Like, you can, so much information. I mean, and your brain is processing very quickly, because there's parts of it that feel like I've got to know that in order to help later. So I'm going to file that away so I can pull that back up, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of garbage, right? There's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of fear garbage. There's a lot of visual garbage. There's just a lot of it. So you kind of have to decide like what you're going to actually keep and share. you know, because as quick as you think you know something, that's how fast it shifts and changes. But there are some facts out there that are very important for us to know. And I'm going to just say this because I think it's important to just bring this in. When we sit in this country and we think that something that's happening somewhere else in the world is not going to happen here, we can no longer think that way. Okay. Because if we want to be a global world, well, look around and see what's happening. And we know right now that there are countries all over the world that are going into this second lockdown. And I think it's very important that people start to understand what that really means for us here. And to really beware of the information that you take in and allow to become your reality. Because yes, there is something out there. There is something happening and also something much bigger happening too. And we all know someone that's been affected by this and I'm not even going to call it what it is because I think there's a lot of other things happening there. All know people who lost their lives and people who have passed on and have left this planet. We know people and we pray for their transition and we pray for those who have lost people. And we also at the very same time recognize that there's a lot of other layers to this too. So we don't have to say that one isn't true in order for another piece of the story to be true as well, right? And so as we start to get into this deeper lockdown, which will probably come, maybe more so than another way, like we're going to have to wait and see. Let's also be aware of how much we believe that is the truth. Let's look a little deeper. Let's push ourselves a little deeper so that we can start to prepare because what actually is really coming is something that we should all be very aware and concerned about. And also just knowledge is power.
Yes, it is. I don't get why people don't want to be powerful. You know, it's like when anything that they're putting out, if you're not reading about it, you're not serving yourself. You know what I mean? Like just to get the knowledge on what's going on. For example, these executive orders saying what we can and can't do. I asked people, did you read it? 95% of the people, huh?
Yeah, but how much easier? Let me ask you. If everybody's doing something, okay, so first of all, as the rebel, I get it, okay, because I'm with you, okay? I never did it any way that anyone did it. That's not my thing, right? Yeah. But it wasn't out of rebellion. It was just out of like, it's just not my way. Yeah. Like I didn't need to rebel against it. It just wasn't my way. I didn't feel like my truth. I felt like I was always connected into like my truth, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of people, in order to save face, will just do what everyone is doing.
Yes.
I mean, listen, it takes a lot for someone to go against the grain, but we've forgotten like the thing that they teach us at a very young age, which is that if everyone's jumping off the bridge, are you going to do it too? I mean, that is like plastered into your brain as a kid.
Yeah, you know? I know. It is.
But that's gone now.
There's a you were talking earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt, but when you were speaking, it reminded me of a quote. It's by Wayne Dyer, and it's "Have a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing." And it's such a great thing because it helps. Do you know what I mean? Like it's okay to learn something new, to expand yourself. You don't have to hold on to this in order to learn about this. You can, you can know it all. Like you can take it all in. You don't have to hold on to one ideal of what you should or shouldn't be or how something should be.
And also what can come out of this space of nothingness.
Everything.
Yeah, totally. Everything can come out of that space. And, it's so interesting because you have to live in a way, maybe a mantra for people could be like, who I am is the possibility of fearlessness, like, can we at least start speaking that into the room? And, look, the other thing about, manifesting or even bringing energy in so that it can become something means that we have to speak it into existence. We can't just, imagine it. Like, let's come out there, right?
Yep.
let's start envisioning like what's possible, and not from an idealistic standpoint, like from a very practical standpoint. Something in us, every one of us will have to die. Some part of us is dying right now. Some businesses are dying. Some family, like things are dying, like structures are dying. And can we be okay with that, so that when we come to this other side, there's something else that's born of it? It's so interesting.
It's the butterfly in the cocoon, right? Because the caterpillar does not survive the cocoon.
No,
it doesn't.
It does not.
No.
I really want to read this poem. I've shared it before, but there's just let me see if I can pull it up, because there's something really special about it. And I've shared it with my women, and I probably have shared it maybe even on a live, but there's something about this. It's a poem by Jennifer Wellwood. I really love it because it's so, it just feels very profound to me. Okay. All right. So here we go. Okay. It's called The Dakini Speaks. Okay. By Jennifer Wellwood. So she says this. It's funny because the first line, it says, let's grow up, but I've been like repeating in my head, like, let's wake up. So I'll read it her way, but I hear. Okay. It's about impermanence. So it says, my friends, let's grow up. Let's stop pretending we don't know the deal here. Or if we truly haven't noticed, let's wake up and notice. Look, everything that can be lost will be lost. It's simple. How could we have missed it for so long? Let's grieve our losses fully, like ripe human beings. But please, let's not be so shocked by them. Let's not act so betrayed, as if life had broken her secret promise to us. Impermanence is life's only promise to us, and she keeps it with ruthless impeccability. To a child, she seems cruel, but she is only wild, and her compassion exquisitely precise, brilliantly penetrating, luminous with truth. She strips away the unreal to show us the real. This is the true ride. Let's give ourselves to it. Let's stop making deals for a safe passage. There isn't one anyway, and the cost is too high. We are not children anymore. The true human adult gives everything for what cannot be lost. Let's dance the wild dance of no hope.
That's great. I love that.
It's
got little goosebumps on the end.
Yeah, like let's dance the dance of no hope. Like everything that can be lost will be lost. Like why do we act as if life has broken her secret promise to us? Impermanence is life's only promise to us, and she gives it to us with reckless abandon. Like, whoa, doesn't mean it's easy.
No. But that's that programming, right? That's that mindset. It's supposed to be like this and like this when it's not. It's everything.
And it's that idea that it all ends. So if it all ends and we don't know when, then wouldn't you throw yourself fully into it? That means there's nothing left to be lost except everything. And as everything is lost, you can actually put yourself fully into what can be created, right? Because it's all going to go anyways. And I think that like that's the other thing too. It's like the fear that's come in, right? How deeply do we want to hold that in our hearts so that we don't actually make any movement? Can we go beyond that? Can we just say, I am the possibility of fearlessness. And whatever comes in my path, I will be fearless to that because I know it's all impermanent and that this too shall pass. And also, what do I have to lose?
What are you afraid of?
Yeah, let's move past it, And again, I'm very witchy. So of course my superstitious things come in and I say, okay, universe, great mystery, like protect us and give us the strength that we need to move in these times with grace and ease, you know, and open ourselves up to be fully connected to something greater than us that can guide us and show us what we need to do next, you know?
Please.
So I'm in that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm there too. I am there too. It's been an amazing process getting here.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Hasn't it been an amazing process to get here? Like, it really has. Like, it doesn't matter up, down, good, bad. It's been an amazing process in the discovery of me, of you. You know what I mean? Like, what an amazing thing. Like, we're incredible. We really are. I tell people all the time, be magnificent. Enjoy everything. Why wouldn't you? Why would, just like that, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the whole piece, is that we're so stuck in this way that we think it's going to end a certain way. We love our ideas of what things will be, right? I mean, even in this conversation, we can think about how much we love the idea. And the other part is like, can we use our imaginations even a little bit more in a more constructive, positive way? Like, why don't we put our energy towards that? Let's start really channeling our energy to a place that can create something bigger than what we can see. I just think that we're so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. I really do. And I think that that's the part that we need to like push ourselves to sort of expand upon. And
not be afraid to be powerful.
Right.
Like, a lot of people don't want it. Like, they don't want to be, you know, it's okay. It's okay to be a powerful building. And like you were saying earlier, you know, it's okay to even though we're pushing it aside, to be a lot. Right? This has been amazing. I am so grateful for your time, for your knowledge, for your energy. Honestly, I'm so happy to be in this time space reconnected with you too.
I know, me too.
I really am. And I know it's a natural thing. I didn't say at the beginning, but I do want to say it now because it was so powerful for me. When we first spoke, I cried. My body cried. I cried. I had tears coming out of my eyes. And that's my soul's way of knowing you're okay, you're safe. This is the direction, like and it was such a beautiful thing for me because the authenticity of that, it wasn't a thought, and I'm tearing up now. It wasn't a thought. It was a genuine feeling of this love that I have for you and this connection. And this part of it, this emotional part of it, this is where we're supposed to be okay with. And we hide it and we shelter from it all. I don't want someone to see. But I'm okay because it actually is a good feeling. It's not, you know, it's that overwhelming feeling. Like, we get overwhelmed with all the negative, but we don't allow ourselves to get overwhelmed with the good that we actually feel. And it's important. Yeah, it's important. It's so important.
Yes, and I love you dearly.
Truly. I love you too. Thank you.
I'm so happy that we're connected, and we'll do this again, I'm sure.
Yes, for sure.
We have a lot to discuss, so
I know.
Super good. Super good.
Any closing thing you would like to say before we go?
I think two of the most important points that I make whenever I am talking any place is that, one, the only thing that we can control is our own frequency. So get really in tune with what is the frequency that you want to be emanating out into the world, right? Yeah. What is it that you want to be the light switch for others with, right? Like, what do you want to light up for others? So yeah, the only thing you can control is your own frequency. And number two, love is the message. It truly is. I mean, that's really what we need to start moving towards, and really use some discernment with what each and every one of us exposes ourselves to, and remain open to the magic that can be created when people come together. And it's not, they say in the Hopi prophecy, the time of the lone wolf is over. And it's time to really become that rainbow frequency vibration that we came here to be, which includes all humans. So yeah.
That was beautiful. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time, for your energy, and for everyone who tuned into the show tonight. Thank you. Much love and respect to you, to the entire On the Wake Up Radio family. You're listening to Event Horizon on the Wake Up Radio. My guest, Jolene Starr. And until next time, we're out. Much love.
Bye.
Bye.